You're listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft and people who play it. Today is April 8th, 2024, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I am joined today, as always, by my co-host Jason Lucas. Jason, it's a bit of a late in the evening, but we're getting the record in. How are you doing? You hanging in there?
Spencer, hello. It's been a long day, but we're here. We are ready to go and to talk some WoW. So, sometimes when we record early, my brain doesn't work too good. We record a little bit late, my brain may also not work too good. So, we'll see.
We haven't hit the sweet spot yet today.
Yeah, so. my 90 minutes of my brain working has long passed today. But we're here, and we do have we got some stuff to cover today. So I'm ready to get into it for sure.
Good, glad to hear it. First, let's hop into what's been going on this past week in World of Warcraft, because I've been playing a lot of WoW, not live WoW. I did a little bit of live WoW with we had the Easter event kicking off there, where people were diving in to make sure they got all their eggs and all for Noble Garden, all their Noble Garden chocolates. But did you spend time doing that, or what were you into? A
little bit. It was a kind of what has become a typical late season 3 week of like single night heroic clear, skip, do the unlock skip to Barak and just make sure that that's done, and then go clear back through and call it a bit of an early night. Attendance is starting to tick back up a little bit, but just interest is still pretty low. So it was fine. I don't really mind doing a maintenance-y kind of one night a week raid, but there's no reason to push it or kind of have like expectations that are just unrealistic. Like people just checked out and we're on the verge of the season roll, so whatever. I did get one keystone in for the week just to kind of, stay limber and, have like a 22 or whatever.
Good. I like how you put that. Just stretch. Make sure you do your weekly stretching of Mythic Plus.
Yeah, I don't want to pull a hammy when season 4 starts.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll tell you what we ended up doing was Blackrook Hold, which was like a little bit of a Legion flashback with Fort Sanguine. Sanguine's not as bad as it used to be, but man, it was not really a cakewalk. Like I didn't have any of my real Mythic Plus pumpers. I don't have any like bad players, but normally I have some like, ace in the hole Demon Hunter or something that's just doing like a million DPS on big, beefy trash packs. I didn't have that. So it was a little chippy getting through there, but Blackrook Hold is probably the easiest and most forgiving dungeon in terms of the timer and stuff, and the bosses are pretty easy. So, it kind of evened out. I was chipping away a little bit at the Fearlath quests, like the stuff to make the legendary axe, just because we are getting down to the end of the season here, and it's like, well, I should get this done, I guess. I got all the Super Bloom stuff done. So that's good. Like I'll still do my weekly Super Bloom for the box and all the other stuff, but I don't have to have that quest and the items and think about it anymore. So, again, like Fearlath it's not a thing I'm going to be able to use because I only play Prot-Spec, but I do kind of want to get it done. I'm just in no hurry. So, just slowly kind of chipping away at that stuff. I did find something that Plunderstorm is more fun than. And that is Noble Garden.
Fair enough. Okay.
Noble Garden still stinks. I do like the duck themed stuff that they added with the rework. I thought the little quest line and the duck puns, that was pretty good, and the daily to scare the ducks away was not very odious. I did get the flying carpet from the event boss yesterday, so that was cool. But you know what? Like the event is over now as we record this. It ended earlier today, but after reset. So I could have had one more day to go through and do it. But, I did the quest every day on my main except for today. And I ended up with like 130-ish, 150-ish chocolates, which is like half as much as you need to buy anything interesting for me.
Yeah.
So I didn't even bother doing the quest today. I just gave up. Like I don't have hardly anything from Noble Garden, but man, the gameplay is so dry.
It is, and to me, it's the time investment, right? Of like, okay, if it's around for X period of time, and I've been talking about this in a lot of things recently, just because there's so many different iterations of World of Warcraft, and Plunderstorm kind of brought this up for a lot of people, where it's like, if you're someone who has 10 hours a week to play a video game, right? Like tops, that is your top end. Typically, it's somewhere around 6 to 8, but I'm just going to average it out. Like you have like 10 hours a week to play video games. Are you going to want to spend 3 or 4 of those hours collecting eggs? Like, is that really how we're going to spend some of this time? Like,
I refused.
It's a
refused to do that.
It's a real struggle. It's the same thing I was sort of talking about with Plunderstorm, where it's like, okay, this event's around for 6 weeks or however long it's going to be. And we're in a situation where, yeah, if you're someone who has 10 hours a week and it takes 40 hours or 35 hours to actually earn all the rewards, like you are looking at people committing at least half of their gaming time that they have for their entire week to trying to earn rewards in Plunderstorm, which is a lot of time. So I do feel like devs around WoW right now need to really look at like, okay, we're offering players a lot to do. We need to be sure we're not forcing them into a position where they're like, I have to sacrifice having fun to do chore X, right? As far as whatever's going on. Like, I mean, it feels
super on
that
point
way.
for Noblegarden.
Yeah.
Yeah, Noblegarden's a chore. Like, it's not very interactive or engaging gameplay, and you have such a tight window. I talked on the show last week that I was like optimistic after the Love is in the Air rework. I thought they did a good job with that because the rewards were fair, the time investment was relatively low.
Right.
The quests were kind of fun, and it was just like, okay, go here, do a couple daily quests. All right. And then you can kind of chart like, okay, if I do this for this many days or in this many characters, then I'll have this many tokens and I can buy the stuff that I want. Also, the intro for that, like the quest line that led you into Shadowfang Keep, that gave you a ton of tokens, and you could do that on many characters to then just instantly have a big pile of tokens to go buy something with. Noblegarden rework does not have that stuff. I didn't even get the duck pet, which I thought was super cool, but I just couldn't stomach like spending a couple hours running around just to get like one reward, Yeah. So I didn't do that. And also, like, it's cool that you get the duck transformation toy, but you can only pick one color. And they're not account wide, so you can't do it on like 6 characters. You just have to do it for 6 years to get all of the different colors for the duck toy.
For a long time, that was the orphan quest that they had.
Yeah,
going, right?
Yeah. Children's Week would work like that too. Yeah.
And so then they eventually made that account wide with how pets work and pets going account wide. So I don't know. Maybe someday we will have an alleviation to that problem, but yeah.
Maybe Noblegarden's still bringing up the rear in terms of in-game holidays.
It just feels that way, right? Yeah. I just think it. As someone who likes bunnies, and I'm a fan of Easter, I am someone who struggles with it being a holiday that just isn't. It isn't one I favor, right? I'd love it to be one that I really liked and enjoyed, and the ducks helped. The ducks definitely helped.
Yeah.
They just need to buff up the rewards to reduce that. Like, I don't care if I loot an egg and make the egg drop 10 chocolates as opposed to 1 chocolate. Great. We're now working our way through this thing, right? Like, whatever it is.
Give me 3 daily quests and each reward like 20 chocolates or whatever, like make them account wide or something. I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff you could do to freshen this up, and it's really the same core mechanic it always was, which is stand there, wait for eggs to spawn, click them, do that over and over again. So, I did it every day for the daily stuff, but then once I got the flying carpet, I checked out. And then other than that, I have been doing my daily plunderstorming. I got my first and potentially only solo dub the other day.
Nice.
So that was really cool. I actually had to kill the last 2 other people. Like, I had to win fights. So that felt pretty nice. It was a nice little extra bonus of plunder at the end. I think I'm like 26 now, something like that. I'm just kind of doing my... I don't always get my 800 bonus plunder for the first game of the day.
I don't either. It doesn't always spawn, that quest.
So sometimes it's like the 3rd game of the day. I don't know how that works really, but I play until I get that, and then I call it a day. So I'm probably on track here to finish before it's all over without having to do anything more than that. But, I'll crank it up if I have to. I guess the cool thing now is like I really just have there's nothing to play for other than get as much plunder as quick as I can and get out.
Yeah.
So I don't really care what happens necessarily. You know, I got the feat of strength, and that was a cool moment. And you know, I didn't think I would get it because it's just like there's so many random elements to it, right? And I'm not playing a lot of games. I'm playing maybe 2 or 3 games a day tops, and it's
Right.
like, you know, you just never know when that dice roll is going to come up in terms of like where you drop, what stuff you get, what happens with other players. And in a particular lobby that I won, like, dude, I dropped in and I got a bunch of stuff. I was just doing my normal PvE, you know, and I'm killing spiders and picking up plunder piles and stuff. I was probably only in the game like 3 or 4 minutes, and I look at the ticker, and there's like 11 players left. Like, I don't know what happened, dude, but it was like I had plenty of time and space in that game to get really powerful and get a ton of plunder because people must have just been taking each other out from the jump. So,
Right.
you know, that was just a particular lobby where everything was just set up for me so nicely. And so it was cool that I got it because now it's like, okay, yeah, I'm trying to get about 800 plunder per lobby, right? Give or take, if I don't have my daily bonus. And so once I get that, it's like, well, you know, maybe I'll just go run into the storm because sometimes I'm just sort of off in the edge of the map and there's nothing else to do, right? Like there's no NPCs to kill, nothing left to pick up. I don't know where any other players are, so I'm just gonna re-queue.
It's pretty safe to say that if you've earned over 750 plunder so far inside of a match, you're not going to find more without starting to PvP. It's pretty safe to say.
Yeah,
That's,
or it's going to slow
is the
down to
top
the point
end.
where like it's not worth your time, right?
Yeah.
Like even if you're just picking it up off the ground, your acquisition rate is going to just slow to a crawl. So if your goal is just to get that renown, then you're better off just hopping in the storm and re-queuing. Like it sounds kind of stupid and defeatist, but you know, it comes down to how you want to utilize your time, just like we were kind of talking about with Noble Garden, right? So if your goal is to get as much plunder as you can, then you do hit that wall kind of mid-game where it's like, I'm not getting any. My plunder per minute is perilously low now. You know, I got what I could get out of this, and that's fine. I'll probably just keep doing, you know, a game or 2 or 3 a day until, you know, if we get some kind of holiday bonus weekend or something, event weekend, then I'll get in there and slam a bunch and just, you know, rack it up. But I don't know. I've made my peace with the mode overall. I still don't really like it, but I feel like they found a good balance with the overall loop for somebody like me that's just trying to acquire the rewards, right? Sometimes it's a 5-minute commitment for my day to queue into a game, get my daily done, and get out. And it's like, okay, I got a rank, or I got half a rank or whatever. Okay, cool. See you tomorrow. And that feels okay. A lot better than when it first came in, because you know they've adjusted the yield so much.
Yeah, I'm up to 35 is where I'm at now with Plunderstorm. I also got a solo dub, my first solo dub. I'd gotten ones in duos before this past week. I ended up killing 4 people inside that game, and it really was finding an area where you land, prioritizing chests over elites is what I was actually doing, is the gold chest, so I leveled up really quickly, so I was like the only level 10 rolling around, which certainly helped because it meant everyone was intimidated by me and didn't want to fight me. It didn't really matter what rank my abilities were at that point because people just avoided me. So you sort of almost are like bluffing what's going on. And then by the time you get down to the last 7 or 8 people left, like the ground is just littered with abilities everywhere that you can just pick up and swap out and, you know, put together a build. And I ended up rotating up into the fortress. Is it Stromgarde Fortress? Is that what that one is?
Yeah, the big like alliance, city
one.
there. Yeah.
Because the circle sort of implied that it could go there as far as the next one goes, and then that sort of forced everyone to funnel to me, because when the circle did move there, it meant everyone was funneling to me, which was nice. And the last guy, I took down the last 3 people, but the very last guy was caught in the storm and had to come out of the storm to face me, which was not a good situation for him.
Yeah, that's not where you want to be if you're trying to live. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, and I will still say that I ended up, I think the last time I played it, Plunderstorm was on Thursday last week, and was at the point where I think I played 2 or 3 games just like, I can't, like I don't understand how people can do the solo. I can't. This is so frustrating, so infuriating. Like and walked away from it for like 2.5, 3 days, and then tried it again, and that's when I ended up getting the dub. Was in the next play session where I got 3 or 4 ranks of renown inside that play session. But like the thing I'll just reiterate is I have to be playing that style of game in game mode when I want and think what I would enjoy playing that style of game in game mode. I have to be in the right mood, basically, is what it comes down to. And if I'm not in the right mood, it is not an enjoyable experience. And so having something where it's like, hey, the best way to do this is to log in every day and do this thing every day isn't healthy. You are going to create a situation where players dislike your content. It would be much better if this is a weekly. If the weekly was like earn 1,500 and it gave you the reward equivalent to the entire week. So you got 2.5 ranks or something for getting 1,500 plunder. Like that to me would be a substantially better situation. However, However, this is their first time doing something like this. So I assume they will correct it in the future. And we'll see what ends up happening with the next round of stuff, because we don't know when that's coming, but I imagine it is based off of the popularity of this, that we will see another Plunderstorm season. I know we're still talking about Murloc Storm and wanting, Murloc Storm to happen at some point, but we'll see what they choose to do down the line. Either way, I still think Plunderstorm just takes too long to get your renown ranks. It just does, regardless across the board. The daily should give you a full rank. It doesn't make any sense the daily gives you half a rank or 3/4 of a rank. Just have it be a full rank, and then hey, I have to do this every day, and I have to do it for 40 days, and then I get the thing done. Like, that's the situation you're in. It's a sentence that you have to commit to, I guess, if you want to get those rewards. So, is what it is. I do agree with you, though. It is nice that sometimes it's like 5 or 10 minutes. I think usually it's about 20 that you would need to do at most to be able to get your daily reward, depending on, obviously, when the daily quest spawns for you when you jump in. To be able to get that all finished for the day. So that's nice. So yeah, so I did some Plunderstorm. I also, obviously, we had the next launch. We had phase 3 of Season Discovery launch, and I happened to have some days off. So I'd actually taken some time off. So I hopped in with Josh on Thursday when that went live, and we did a 14-hour session of grinding and hit 50 in that one evening from when it went live. And it was crazy. And, it's the thing I haven't done since my 20s or teenage years where I was doing a grinding session like that. But we did 40 to 46 inside Zul'Farrak, and then we went and tried out the incursions that were happening. And if we probably could have shaved 4 hours off of our leveling time had we just gone to incursions immediately, because they were so rewarding when it came to experience. And you had a really good loop, especially with a group. Like if you have a group of 5 people, you can do a loop in there very quickly. I was not part of the wave that took advantage of the ridiculous amount of gold that was happening. There was an issue with the gold rewards being amplified by the leveling quest, which created an exorbitant amount of gold. So some people were earning like hundreds of gold doing quests with this loop. And so there was some economy issues that came from that, and they've changed that up a bit. It also created the problem that I emphasized immediately of, well, this is silly because you're either dungeon grinding or you're doing this incursions, which means in no way, shape, or form are you actually out in the world discovering anything inside Season of Discovery. So this doesn't make any sense at all. So they are doing a hotfix, which we'll talk about here tomorrow, which will change up basically you will have reduced experience gain from doing incursions, and you'll have more experience gain from doing everything else. So that way they'll actually start balancing out other activities a little more. I still think incursions and dungeon grinding will be the best way to level and the most efficient way to level. I think questing is just substantially too slow. And honestly, runes are still a big problem as to how you find them. I did a search for the Druid runes. The Barkskin rune is level 47 to 50. The Efflorescence rune is level 50. The Elun's fire for the bracers is 46 to 50. As far as the mobs that are around in the area, meaning that you can run into level 50 mobs at any of those, and you can run into at the lowest level you run into was 46 at one of them. But if you want to get any of those runes, you have to essentially be towards the end of your leveling experience or at the end of your leveling experience to be able to do it. Particularly the Efflorescence rune, which is basically like you level 50 mobs after level 50 mobs. So you have to really be sure that you're a high enough level to be able to handle those things. And I think that's a big problem. I still feel like runes should be something that you get early on in the experience and helps you improve the leveling experience to make the leveling experience more exciting. I don't think the goal of Season of Discovery should be power level inside an event that is like the same repetitive grind. And then once you're 50, go out and try and get all your runes by Googling where you find all of them on Wowhead, right? And that's essentially what I accepted I was going to do this time because they burned me too bad in phase 2. In phase 2, the WoW team just burned me so bad when I was doing the leveling thing that, here's a great example. I had the bag of peanuts that you get from completing the sleeping bag quest still on my character. I hadn't used all of them. I still had 6 of them left because I didn't find the sleeping bag until I was 39. So I really had no use for them at that point because the sleeping bag quest starts in Westfall. And who's going to know that? Like, it was added in phase 2, just to clarify. So it was added when everyone was already level 25. So it's one of those things where they need better breadcrumbs and they need to give stuff to players earlier on so that they can have, like, I would love to have had efflorescence through my dungeon grinding experience or through my leveling experience with a group where I'm healing someone, putting down the green circle, people get to stand in it, get healing from that passively. I can weave in more damage because they're standing in a healing circle. That would have been fun, as opposed to like, nope, I'm doing the same thing I was doing all through phase 2 until I hit max level and I can change it up. So that to me is something that I feel like they still need to sort of get into and address. I did, however, hop into raid today. So I did Sunken Temple, first 2 bosses. We managed to get those down just before recording the show. And it still feels too high as far as difficulty goes. I think they need to do another big nerf pass on that place, especially to trash, just to make trash easier to kill. And I'm not saying that because trash is hard to kill. I'm saying that because there's a lot of trash. So you should be able to just get through the trash faster. It took us 20 minutes to kill the trash to unlock the first boss. That's how long it took us to do that. And you're like, okay, guys, let's be clear. This shouldn't be a 3-hour raid or a 4-hour raid. That's not what this should be. If you're asking 20 people to get together in Season of Discovery, this offshoot of World of Warcraft, and do this raid needs to be able to be completed in under 2 hours. It needs to be. So I am hoping that with gear and whatnot, we see that, but also that they then put in some nerfs to things. We have a particularly melee-heavy group. The second boss in there, no spoilers, does not favor melee. And so we struggled a lot with the second boss until we finally got it. We were also doing a blind run, so we were learning mechanics as we went. But it was a situation where the bosses just take too long to die. Like you could cut 25% health off of these bosses and they'd still feel appropriate, I think. So hopefully that all gets resolved and sorted, and we can see some nerfs coming in next week to that kind of stuff. But overall, enjoying Season Discovery. I had a good time. I did a bunch of farming I did a bunch of princess runs. I did a bunch of other, stuff with folks just to sort of enjoy that. So I'm enjoying it. I just think there's some tweaks that they could do to really sort of make it a special experience for folks and get them more excited for it. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what they choose to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially tough. Like, I know, and I mean, I think Agron had something to say to this effect on Twitter. Like, they wanted to aim high because they didn't want people just straight up blowing through it, and they overshot it, and they got to claw it back. And that is the best way to do it because you don't want something to be way too easy because you can never really make it harder. Otherwise, it feels really bad. But it's a level up raid, and it's probably only going to exist for like a month based on what we're seeing from the the speed of stuff coming in SOD. So like, if you can't blow through it, then it's a failure in my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know.
agreed.
I mean, it sucks because I love the idea of SOD, and they've just completely lost me. I didn't even think about logging in this week, and because I'm 27 or whatever. I never played phase 2. I mean, the outdoor event stuff to level up and everything, that sounds cool to me, but I don't know, man. I don't know what it would take to get me back in there and putting time into that at this point, because I just feel like with my schedule, like I'll never be able to keep up with it at this point. So it's easier to just ignore it, It's like maybe I could level up, but then I'd have to figure out a way to find people to do Sunken Temple raid with, which I may or may not be able to do. And then by the time I could get in there, it would be over. So, why even bother? Just start the whole cycle again, then go into 60 and everything. So I don't know. I wish I had time to do it or the motivation to do it or find time to do it or whatever, but I just don't. And maybe once the level is capped and maybe stuff settles a little bit more, then it'll be time. But I mean, it wasn't even a remote possibility for me this week.
They need catch-ups. They really do. They need to just slather ketchup all over this thing, to be honest. It's a situation where you have 2 months per phase. I had done over 40 Scarlet Monastery runs spread out between cathedrals and graveyards and armories, and I had not received my books yet at that point. I started doing leveling when we were first doing the start for leveling. We did Scarlet Monastery, I think 4 times or 5 times, and then we went over to ZF and started doing ZF. And in those runs, I happened to get one of the books, and the guys were like, "How did you not have that book yet?" I'm like, "My character's been parked here for weeks because I just log in and do Scarlet Monastery to try and get the books." I ended up getting 2 of the books out of those runs. I still needed the 3rd book, which was the Revive book, the one that lets druids resurrect people, and still didn't have that. Managed to level all the way up to 50, came back at level 50 and stealthed to the back of Graveyard and killed Thalnos over and over again until I got the Revive book. And I'm like, this shouldn't be the case. And FYI, as a level 50 character, it's not very exciting for me to go back to Scarlet Monastery and kill a boss over and over again to get a required book for my class to be able to resurrect people. Like, let's put these things into relevant content. Why is it I'm not killing Princess to get my Revive book? Like, why is that not a thing, right? Let's move all this stuff forward. If you're going to be pushing players through the season stuff like this, start moving runes and everything forward into further content or off a vendor, like I said, because people inside Jason's situation aren't going to want to start from the beginning, level all the way up to full, go all the way back to the beginning, find all the runes that they missed along the way, and then, like, that's not going to be a thing, right? And you're going to see them go, all right, this is the best route. You do incursions all the way up to max level, and then you go back and find all your runes. You shouldn't want players to do that. And I feel like that is the direction they're pushing things by not adding more catch-up mechanics to it. And I know there's going to be people out there who are like, hey, you know what? The leveling experience along the way, the journey is part of it. It's a 2-month experience, and players are going to want to play with their friends. Their friends are going to be max level, and they're going to be doing stuff. Unless their friends are leveling with them, they're going to want to get to max level because they're going to want to be able to do content, play games with their friends. So Season of Discovery isn't the place to go, let's just make sure players can take it as easy as possible and to level at any pace they want. This should be something where you have lots of aggressive catch-up mechanics to help players feel like they can get relevant as fast as possible and get into content as fast as possible. The one thing Incursions does really well, the Reputation has tier sets on it, and the sets that you buy off of it are almost as good as the ones that you get at level 40 from doing Gnomeregan. So you actually get, they're level 50 items. They have good bonuses and stuff on them. They're basically on parallel with Gnomeregan raid tier pieces, which is really good. It's great catch-up gear for a lot of players. So if you are someone who's like, hey, I didn't really do the Gnomeregan raid, I do want to hop into the current raid, go do some incursions for a bit. I think it just requires friendly or honored to be able to buy I think it's honored to buy all the tier pieces, but it's friendly to start buying them. And you can get some really nice gear really quickly that'll help your class out. So that's a good one for that too. All right, we've chatted a bunch here at the top of the show. Let's hop into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, this week in World of Warcraft is the Arena Skirmish bonus event, where the Sign of the Skirmisher buff is up and honor gains from Arena Skirmishes are increased by 50%. There's a quest to win 10 of these you can pick up inside Valdrakken, and it rewards some honor and conquest. And speaking of PvP, there's one thing I didn't mention top of show that I am going to sneak in here. Please put diminishing returns on stuns into Plunderstorm. It is dumb that you can get hit by the tornado stun over and over and over again and permanently stunned until you die in it. That can happen because people put down the little like time warp swirl and then stand in it with the stun ability and just literally stun you, and you can never move and never get out of it ever until you die. That happens. That is a thing. Diminishing returns, please. All right, moving on. Aiding the Accord is a quest you want to pick up. Choosing to do either your Super Bloom or another event requires you to get 3k rep for the week, but it's a great way to catch up on reputations. The PvP brawl for the week is Temple of Hot Magoo, where the Temple of Hot Magoo is got some modified rules going on where you're able to throw the Orb of Power to friendly players and you resurrect faster. It's only a 5-second resurrection timer. So yeah, you get to just slam through these really quickly. There's also only a couple of orbs to actually have. You don't have there's not 4 orbs. So you can have a grand old time with your friends doing Temple of Hot Magoo. It's by far my favorite brawl, just for like fun, because the resurrection timer being so low is a big difference maker. Like just being able to get in, mix it up, cause a lot of problems, and if you die, you pop back up again like within 4 seconds, because the first second is like your load screen of you going to the resurrection person, is really nice. So you can just you just get to keep playing. You get to play the game more. Like it's just more fun because you get to play the game more. I'm just saying that's one of those things. Go figure.
Yeah, Cabo Goo is like already one of the faster paced PGs, if not like maybe the fastest paced one, and then this just cranks it all the way up. So
Yeah.
yeah, these are like super fast and fast paced games. It's pretty fun. Like I think among the brawls where we're taking just an existing formula and doing a rule tweak, this is probably one of the better ones, if not the best one.
Yeah.
I kind of like the ones that are a bit wackier more, but yeah, this is a good one, and definitely a good way to if you want some really fast paced combat and just fast paced games, like it's definitely this brawl.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on, we got Orstar the Hibernator, the big Rune Bear in Emerald Dream. If you're looking for some 441 loot, or you're looking to get your Rune Bear form, be sure you're killing the world boss out there in the Emerald Dream. We then have Mythic Plus affixes for the week: Tyrannical, Entangling, and Bursting, meaning bosses have more health, and them and their minions inflict increased damage. You have, while in combat, Entangling Vines periodically appear and snare players, and when slain, non-boss enemies explode, causing players to suffer damage over time for 4 seconds, and this affects stacks. So Tyrannical, Entangling is not bad, but it's not great, right? You might have to eat a stun every now and then because you have to stand inside of a bubble or stand out of a thing, and you just don't move quickly enough to break your Entangling. Maybe you need to call for a Dispel, and there's some people who can give you freedom, something like that, to sort of clear those routes, or you shapeshift. Bursting is going to make Trash a little bit more dangerous because it is a Tyrannical week, which means Trash is going to die quickly. You're going to be killing these packs quickly, which means that you're going to then see bursting stacks hit players faster. So you just got to be aware of the bursting. Just be really aware of the bursting. Be sure if you're a healer, you're dispelling the bursting off of yourself first and then trying to heal others. That is always a really good method to go about with this, because if you dispel someone else, most likely you're going to be so focused on trying to keep others alive, you're not going to keep yourself alive very well. So the biggest tip I can give you is just dispel yourself, then heal everybody else. And if you can dispel someone else, great. If you can mass dispel, that's even better. If you can revival, that's great. So all those things are really helpful in this. I think this is probably a phenomenal Tyrannical week, is what I'm just going to say. This is probably one of the best Tyrannical weeks you'll see, because as long as you handle bursting well, I think this is like Entangling's almost a non-affix that you're dealing with. Bursting is not an affix that affects the boss at all. I think this is going to be a great Tyrannical week for people who want to actually get some M+ rating in there, get their portals done before they go away in a few weeks.
Yeah, I agree with that for the most part. I think it's a pretty good Tyrannical combo. And yeah, if you're trying to get like, trying to squeeze into that 3,600 plus category to get your title or whatever, you do get Entangling during boss fights. I don't feel like it's that much of a problem in this dungeon pool. I think it was actually worse last season when Entangling first came in, because there was Vortex Pinnacle and stuff where there was just a lot of movement requirements that were real dicey on some of the bosses, and so Entangling could be a problem. You have to react to it, but anything that breaks the snare will break it. A pally in the group is really nice to have, especially if they have like the double hands, so they can freedom somebody and themselves at the same time.
Yeah.
Bursting could get a little gnarly in like your Everblooms or something, where you're just gonna have huge pulls in Everbloom, right? Like there's no way to do it in a timely fashion without having 7-8 pulls. Priest is kind of busted for Mass Dispel and stuff on those. It is really hard to get DPS to hold off, but also it's a game design problem in some ways, right? Even for me, for playing Prot Warrior, like I can't stop damaging almost everything I'm fighting. Right?
Yeah.
My abilities just hit stuff, and I use a trinket that just hits stuff, and I have no control over it. So you got to be careful. If you have tools to help out with it, then definitely help your healer out for sure. If you can either heal yourself or whatever, put some kind of shield up, definitely do that, because bursting can get it can sneak up on you on a Tyrannical week because stuff just explodes. Throne of the Tides, I think, would be another example where you might have some kind of gnarly bursting encounters, especially on a Tyrannical week, because really you should pull that entire first hallway, all together. And that's, I don't know, what is that, 12 mobs or something? That's a lot. You get the Murloc pack. I don't think they have On Death, but then you have, 3 other packs that you're pulling together. And there's some other really big pulls, like with the goblins and all that stuff. So certain dungeons are going to be much more punishing for bursting than others. Like, if you're doing a Dawn of the Infinites and stuff, most of those pulls with stuff that actually has on death are pretty small. So, you know, that I think bursting is going to be much more dungeon dependent. But yeah, overall, I mean, this is a pretty nice combo. Typical Tyrannical Week disclaimer applies. You know, you're going to hit that 24, 25, whatever it is for your group. For me, it's like 24 where the game stops being fun. But you're going to hit whatever it is where the boss is just going to be harder than actually feels good to do. And then you got to figure out, you know, what that means to you as a player. But yeah, overall, I mean, this is a nice, very late season, like last minute Tyrannical Week. Good chance to get some points on the board, get a teleport, whatever. Really, I think really player friendly combo and plenty of counterplay here, and without being like super comp dependent. Right? There's like multiple different solutions for all the different ways to counterplay this stuff.
Yeah, there's going to certainly be a lot of ways to actually deal with this, which is great. You don't have to deal with, hey, I don't have a priest in my group, so I can't do this. Yes, Mass Dispel is super helpful, but it's not a required thing, and it doesn't require DPS to then take talents in a different way to be able to manage that properly for your group. It's not a situation where you're like, hey, well, we're just never going to bring XYZ class with us this week, which I think is good. So that I prefer, which I like to see a lot. Darkmoon Faire is also currently live. It runs until the 13th. So if you're someone who wants to hop in and take advantage of Darkmoon Faire, get yourself some extra reputation or experience, do the races, do your dance, do your Minesweeper, you know, get some more pet battles in, go see a band, get your profession skill ups. All those things are available at the fair. So be sure you're taking advantage of the fair while it's around. Hot fixes for the week. We're going to just cover the live ones and we'll save the other ones, the other versions of WoW towards the end, to sort of separate those out for folks. So the live ones we got in here is for Arms Warriors, your Merciless Bone Grinder now functions correctly. I mean, if you're missing pieces of your Merciless Bone Grinder, it's just not going to work properly, right? You got to have everything together to make it work.
I went to the doc and I was like, Doc, my Merciless Bone Grinder just isn't functioning correctly.
Yep.
And I did an MRI and this is such a funny hotfix note because I don't know what it was doing before.
Yeah.
I think that this is the thing that it's the thing that modifies at Bladestorm. So after you Bladestorm, then other stuff does more damage in a window. I don't play Arms, so please be gentle. Like I haven't even spec'd Arms one time in probably 2 or 3 expansions now. But that is what I believe Merciless Bone Grinder does. So I don't know what it was doing wrong. I don't know if it just like wasn't giving you the bonus or if it was giving you too much bonus. But either way, you can now confidently bone grind mercilessly.
You know, it might have just been grinding the bones too finely. The powder just wasn't coarse enough. Like it could have been. Who knows? You know.
I guess that would mean you wouldn't get enough of a buff, right?
Yeah,
like
could have been.
Maybe the duration was correct, but the effect wasn't. I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, it should be working now.
Yep, should be.
They gave us no other context. Thanks.
Exactly. The following adjustments have been made to Water's Beating Heart Trinket. When not equipped with Water's Beating Heart dispels a player affected by Primal Wellspring Water, the buff will now correctly apply to the debuff player. Oh my goodness. Wow, that was a hard one. When an ally not equipped with it dispels a player who has the Wellspring Water buff, it will now correctly apply to the debuff player. Oof. Okay, so that just wasn't working properly. It's fixed.
I wonder why that wasn't working properly.
Now let's be clear here. Merciless Bone Grinder now functions correctly. That's all we get. Wellspring Water thing gets this huge explanation. I don't know. Anyways.
I feel like they both end up in the same effect.
They
where
do.
I just go,
it wasn't working.
Okay.
Now it's working. All right, good. Perfect. So folks were worried about that. That's not functioning properly. They also fixed an issue with the Globe of Jagged Ice, Granite's Enduring Scale, Inexorable Resonator, Tome of Unstable Power, Umbral Skull's Fractured Heart, and Water's Beating Heart. So if any of those were not dropping at the correct item level, that's now also resolved as well.
So does this mean they were too high or too low? Like, were people just pulling Season 4 trinkets
out of like to do.
Mythic Zeros?
Yep, this is what they like to do. They like to put us in a situation where they're like, we're not going to tell you if this was a good thing or a bad thing. We're just going to tell you it wasn't right, and now it's fixed.
Right. I got to think that means that they were dropping too good, that they were dropping higher than they were supposed to. Because, normally when they phrase it like that. So, That's kind of interesting. I didn't hear tell of anybody that I know doing that. Like, oh, I'm gonna dive in. Somebody come do, Mythic Zero Azure Vault with me because I need the Umbral Skull trinket or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it won't be very long now that we'll be chasing the actual season 4, Myth track versions of whatever it turns out to be good from here. So, but yeah, we're in such a weird little space right here in these couple weeks where we have the new patch, we have the data that season 4 is going to be on, but we're still in season 3, but all the content is deader than a doornail. So
Yeah.
There's some weird stuff like this out there right now.
Speaking of which, they also finally did some more Tindral and Farak nerfs on Mythic difficulty. Farak growth, fiery growth on Tindral Sage Swift was reduced to 3 as opposed to 4 on Mythic difficulty. The fiery growth damage was reduced by 20%, falling star damage reduced by 15%, pulsing heat damage reduced by 10%. So overall, your healers should have a substantially easier time, and your team should have much less spiky damage happening on Tindral. That's good. On Farak, the Shadow Cage now lasts 12 seconds. The Flamebound now increases the damage taken from Flame Orbs by 5% as opposed to 30%. So that's hey, people were just dying to this mechanic. Let's make it so people can survive through one of them. There you go. The Shadowbound now increases the damage taken from Shadow Orbs by 5% down from 30%. The Blaze damage decreased by 20% on Mythic difficulty, as well as the maximum health of the Darnassian Ancient was decreased by 20% on Mythic difficulty, sort of making the overall Farak fight on Mythic easier as well, to sort of help those last few teams in these last 3 weeks that they have left finish this thing. It's not even. It's like two and a half weeks or 2 weeks that they have left. Finish this thing off. It's like 2 weeks and a day.
As we're speaking now.
As we're speaking, yeah.
These came in, I think, with reset last week, so they came in like right after we recorded last week. But
yeah.
So it's like a total of like 3 weeks. I mean, we're up to almost 900 Farak kills, so that's not terrible. But it's also really not a whole lot for how long the content's been out and how close we are to the end here. I would like to see them. I mean, we haven't seen if there's going to be any adjustments for this week. I don't think there will be. We would probably know by now because it's getting pretty late out east on Monday night. But I don't think they've aggressively nerfed this stuff enough at the end of the season here. I think once you kind of get past that like halfway point, not even just Mythic, but everything should just start getting chunked down. Again, respect players' time and also encourage players to try a new boss, try a harder difficulty, whatever. And I think Amir Drasil's a really good raid. I love the theming and the way it looks. I love the layout. It's a nice, fast run. I think the bosses are all pretty fun. There's no like obnoxious raid leader puzzles to solve on Heroic, at least, which I appreciate. But I do think they kind of just let the difficulty just remain static for way too long. I mean, Tindral was overtuned badly on Mythic, and that was costing teams even looks at Farak and pulls on it, which then has this sort of downstream effect of like just not enough kills because people don't have enough practice. I don't know. I think like we collectively as players, we probably have a lot on our wish list for raiding in War Within, but I would just like to see them pull the trigger on the stuff a little faster, man. Like, there's, once those kind of top ranks get sorted out, I'm not sure how much prestige there is there. I think players just want to play the game and see the content and get loot and stuff. I would like to see raid teams that planned out their raid schedule around when the nerfs were going to come, in the sense that they know typically 8 weeks into content being out, the first wave of really heavy nerfs hit it. And at 10 weeks out, the second wave of really heavy nerfs. And at 12 weeks, the third wave of really heavy nerfs. And you watch them do that as we get towards that, hey, once we get, 4 months into content, it has now been nerfed enough that it's just, they're pretty much done nerfing it. Like, it just sits at this final state that they've moved it into for the rest of that content. But it would allow raid teams that are like yours to go, yeah, guys, just so everyone's aware, the first 8 weeks, we're just doing normal Heroic. The moment that first wave of nerfs hit, which is always at that 8-week mark, we're going to move into doing Mythic. And anyone who wants to kill it before then can get all the prestige of we did it in the first 2 months, right? That becomes their thing. If we did it before the big wave of nerfs that are going to happen at 2 months. And then everyone who wants to actually try Mythic just waits until that 2-month point and then starts into the content to sort of see what's happening with it. Because every couple of weeks, there's another big pass of nerfs to allow more teams to see that content and get through it. Because
like honestly, what is the harm? Like, who are you harming when you're choosing to do this? Really, right? Like,
Right, that's
yeah.
what I can't figure out. You know, I would like to see this shift kind of happen and come in earlier for all these reasons that you're laying out. Like, I don't think it harms anybody really. I mean, like, it might harm. The only people that might harm are like the really hardcore bleeding edge players who are just that one little, you know, fractional tier behind the people that are clearing the stuff pre-nerf, where like they can't quite do it in an 8-week time frame, you know, and then nerfs come in and then, oh, I could have, you know, our team could have done this, but we just didn't get enough polls.
That happens anyways.
But yeah, right. Like, I mean, I feel like that's inevitable. I mean, it happens to teams at every difficulty level.
At least this way they know it's coming. If they set a date where they're saying, hey, guess what? The big pass on nerfs to bring this thing down in content happens 8 weeks out. At least you know it's coming. Like, at least you know.
Yeah.
Okay, 8 weeks out. This is our timeline. If we want to kill it before the nerf, we have this period of time, as opposed to being in a situation that we're most likely in most of the time is on Thursday we find out the big nerfs are coming Tuesday, and you got 1 or 2 raids left.
Right.
If you're one of those teams to sort of figure that thing out, you know, like it's where you're at.
No, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with your point. Like, I just think it just ends up being unnecessarily punishing. You want to encourage players to tackle the content and stuff, and I feel like, I mean, listen, I have no numbers, I have no insight into what happens, you know, like on the business end of the game, but like, I feel like Season 3 was received really well, and Emerso was received very well, and had just like the most dramatic, like whiplash-inducing brain drain of any tier I've ever seen.
Right.
I think anybody would tell you that it's a good raid. Like, your average player would be like, yeah, I like the raid. Oh, I haven't done it in 2 months, but I like it. You know what I mean? It's just I know, like, for our team, there was sort of this inflection point where just all of a sudden everybody disappeared, you know, and we still had potential for prog and for some nice rewards to go out and stuff. You know, we had just progged on a boss that drops a trinket that everybody likes and stuff like that, and just, you know, some switch flipped, and it was just time to be done.
Yeah. And
I feel like more aggressive nerfs could probably help with that, and just encourage people to log in the next week and give it another try. You know, I think that really adds up over the course of an entire tier.
If you know what their schedule, in the sense of like, if you know that the first wave of nerfs is planned 8 weeks out, and that you're going to get more nerfs 2 weeks after that and 2 weeks after that, it gives players a carrot who are struggling, right? They go, all right, we're not going to try Mythic until we see the first big wave of nerfs. That's going to be 8 weeks, so everyone sort of has an idea of what we're going to be doing for the first 8 weeks. Once they've done that first big nerf, you get in there, you start doing content, you start learning stuff, you're seeing stuff, you hit that first wall. Players are like, oh, this is a bit much. You probably spend the second week that's out doing that wall. The third week it gets nerfed again. That's the 2 week period afterwards. We then see the next nerf wave. And you go, oh, okay, well now we can kind of get through this, and that made that easier, and this is a bit easier to get through. So you can be able to push a little farther into it. That's sort of what I'm talking about, of having this like carrot that keeps players checking the content and wanting to do the content, because it's updated frequently enough and nerfed frequently enough that you see players go, okay, we're struggling right now, but don't worry, guys, there's hope, right? Hope is coming with this. Because right now it's like, you know, I just picture like Anduin days where we're like, I hope something gets changed soon, man. Like, I don't know what they're doing. They just nerfed it 6 times. It's still really hard. Like, hopefully something changes soon. Like, that's where we were at, like, through that whole period. So knowing like, hey, here's big nerf, next one's scheduled for 2 weeks out, be ready for it. You're like, great, perfect. Okay. The teams that care about nerfs have a drive to try and focus up and get through it before the nerfs happen. The teams that want the nerfs are like, great, perfect. We have something to look forward to in 2 weeks, like whatever it is. So that's where I stand on the whole thing. And hopefully, you know, we see some adjustments or movement in that direction, because I think it would be really healthy for keeping those raid teams going and alive. Because I agree with you. I think in a lot of cases, people just lose faith, where they're like, look, I don't want to spend my whole night wiping. That's not fun to me. And, you know, maybe I'll have a look at it again if they nerf it somewhere down the line, but there's no like plan for that, right? There's no way that you can go, yeah, don't worry, that's going to come soon. They'll do that soon, right? Like, that could be 8 weeks. We don't know. It could happen at tomorrow. We don't know. So it's better if you have an idea of when they're going to do those sorts of things. And I think that would help players out a lot. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Dragonflight Season 3 ending, because we got a blog post for that. We know that it's ending at 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 p.m. Pacific in the evening. So this is 2022, 2023. So 2022, 10 p.m. Pacific, 2023, 1 a.m. Eastern.
1 a.m. East
Coast. 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Eastern. Yeah. So keep that in mind as when this is going to roll over from season 3 to season 4. And season 4 begins immediately. So yeah, yes, at 1 a.m. it's going to kick off into season 4. If you're someone who wants to do the all-night grind, you can. Or maybe if you're, I guess, EU
well, no, it won't start until
it.
after maintenance. It's going to be
after maintenance.
Yeah, there's no way.
They say
that
season 4 begins immediately following on April 23rd. So
yeah.
presumably it could be maintenance during that
yeah,
window?
I wouldn't expect to be grabbing any new stuff overnight on Monday night. But maybe. But the idea is that like there's not going to be the
limbo week,
pre postseason ramp
Yeah.
up week or 2 weeks or whatever. We're rolling straight from season cutoffs Monday, NA, season roll, Tuesday reset or what have you, or maybe just calendar. But either way, we got 2 weeks left. Is the idea at this point?
Yep. And so we'll have the season end. Obviously, the 0.01% of people who qualified are going to be getting their Mythic Plus rating for Dreaming Hero for the Dragonflight achievement. That'll get in there. The Dreaming Hero title and achievement is only going to be awarded like a few weeks afterwards. So don't change your faction because that always screws shit up. So don't do that. It's no good. Be sure that you are staying your current class so that you can actually be sure that you get your title that you've earned. All of the Mythic Plus achievements are going to still be able to be earned when Season 4 begins. The seasonal rewards going away with the start of Season 4 are ahead of the curve for Farak. The Cutting Edge, the Hall of Fame, all those for Farak are all going away. Dragonflight Keystone Explorer for Season 3, Dragonflight Keystone Conqueror, Master, Hero, all going away for Season 3. The Dragonflight Season 3 Master and Hero dungeon rewards as well, so all those going away as well. So yeah, just expect all the things attached to Season 3 to go away in any of their titles. If you have any kind of achievement that's attached with Season 3, it's going away. So just expect that. With PvP, the season's end, it will no longer be possible for you to earn the titles and rewards and everything associated with Season 3. The PvP rewards going away with Season 4 are the combatant rewards. Those are all going away. They're all attached again to Season 3, so it's very obvious that they'd be going away. All the way down through Duelist and Gladiator and the Verdant Gladiator and Elite and Legend and Verdant Legend. Those are all those things that are attached to Season 3 are going away with the launch of Season 4. So yeah, just be ready in 2 weeks to see those sorts of things go away. If anything, any achievement that says Season 3, it's gone. It ends then. So expect that along with the Head of the Curve, Cutting Edge, and Hall of Fame stuff. So yes, be sure you're getting your rating in and your rewards in and all that kind of stuff that you want to do before the 22nd hits. All right.
Yeah, probably Ahead of the Curve is the biggest thing here for most players, I think. I think that's the thing that like your most middle of the road player probably is shooting for. Like the widest part of the bell curve that's kind of the capper for the season. So keep that in mind. And also, of course, like full dungeon rotation. So if you want any portals, this is your last couple weeks to get them for time plus 20s, because none of them will be in the Season 4 pool. There was some overlap at the end of Shadowlands, right, where Tazavesh was in Season 3 and 4, so you had kind of a little extended window there to get them. Not the case this time. So if there's any that you want or you don't have, that that's a thing to definitely get on your radar. I think 20s are as easy as this season as they've been. So if you are missing them or you don't even have any of them yet, you could probably still knock them out. And then of course for the people that are pushing rating for the end of season titles for PvE and PvP, like that's a pretty rarefied air. I'm nowhere close to that myself, and I won't be doing that. But yeah, I'm glad they gave us plenty of notice here. I feel like 3 weeks is a lot of notice for this. Season 3 is pretty short overall because it started in mid-November, right? So it's only like a 5-month season. But yeah, I mean, it was a nice heads up last week to be like, hey, you have like a couple resets left, so make sure you do all of this stuff if you care about it.
Yeah, the Tyrannical and Fortified rotations is the nice thing, right? You get 2 Tyrannicals and 2 Fortifieds if you were paying attention to this last week, which is a good way to go about it to give players enough time to try and get the ratings they want, get the portals, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's great. Season 4 crafted items were not maxing out at the right item level. So this is on PTR. People were crafting up items with their professions, and they were capping out at 522 which is Mythic Track 2, as far as the stage goes. They're supposed to cap out at Mythic Track 3, which is 525. That has been fixed. So they expect that to go live that way. They're supposed to be 525. They will be 525. So that's been resolved. So that's a good thing people caught, so that it wasn't something that had to get adjusted later and could cause more problems. Good job giving feedback on PTR and mentioning it, because that's a problem. So resolved.
Yeah, this was shaping up to be a real bummer, but I think it was just PTR weirdness that probably they were going to catch one way or the other. But
Hopefully.
It did set off like a minor shockwave, because it's just enough of a cutoff where it's like, okay, are the embellishments even worth it at this point then, if you have access to Myth 4 gear, right? Is an embellished Myth 2 piece worth it over a Myth 4 piece without an embellishment on it that you get from a dungeon drop or whatever, a vault reward basically, or a mythic raid drop? And the answer was looking like no in a lot of cases. And with the profession rework and the amount of, effort that players have put into professions, it would have been a real bummer if the design decision was like, no, crafted gear actually just straight up sucks in Season 4 and you shouldn't use it. Like, that would have felt really bad.
It'd be a big reversal from what we've seen so far. So
yeah. Because in Season 1 and 2, it was pretty much equivalent to top-end gear if you put all the work in, and that was great, but it was a little too powerful for their liking, and WoW's always been a little gun-shy with letting crafted gear be really good. So they dialed it back a little bit in Season 3, and then you kind of see a lot of people are just going to run an embellishment on, like, cloak and bracers, just, like, low item-level budget slots, just to get the effect, and you're not really missing out on too much if you're just, using those equipment slots. Probably see very similar behavior in Season 4. It'll be worth having your Shadow Flame patches or whatever on your low impact gear slots. I'm glad they got out in front of it. And this is one of those. I think this is one of those PTR tea kettle tempest type situations, but maybe not. I mean, maybe it was seriously off their radar and they were like, oh yeah, we got to fix that. So. If you're familiar with the way crafting works in Season 3, it should be very similar in Season 4 in terms of power level, priority, and acquisition in terms of like how you get it to that max upgrade track and everything like that. So the idea is to keep it pretty similar to Season 3.
Exactly. All right, we're going to shift gears. We're shifting into Season of Discovery, so everyone's aware of what's happening as far as the show goes. There was a post that went out from Agrin that we mentioned at the top of the show about adjusting experience gain inside of Season of Discovery for people who are leveling up and catching up. And it's a great blog post if you want to read through the whole thing. The parts I want to highlight is that they've been watching everyone having a blast, enjoying themselves in Nightmare Incursions over the past few days. This post came out, I think it was on Friday night. And said over the past few days, but we wanted to give you a little bit of advance notice that we plan early next week, today, it's all went live today, to change some things, and we wanted to give some reasoning behind it. So basically they noticed that incursions were the best way to level, was what it came down to. Like, the experience gain between level 40 and 50 was substantial, and they were being concerned that Nightmare Incursions may overshadow most other activities in the game in their current form. And while they're all having a lot of fun, they'd hate for folks to feel like they need to entirely eschew the rest of the level 40 to 50 level up content for the entire phase, because they just were going to do that. And which is what I did, right? I did not quest at all, and other than doing the incursions, which involves a lot of quests, but it's the same quests over and over and over again, just repeating. So as a result, they're making an adjustment today, where they are increasing the magnitude of Discoverer's Delight. This buff is going from a 50% increased experience gain from other places to a 75%, and that's from level 40 to 49. Obviously, it's already above that from up until level 40. It's already over 100%, so it's right there, or 100%. So just keep that in mind. But they're changing that buff, and to offset that, they're reducing the amount of experience gained from the actual missions or quests that you're doing in Nightmare Incursions. And so they're trying to balance those things out. So my assumption is they're probably cutting the experience gain from Nightmare Incursions by like 30%, or, something around there, to try and bring it down low enough that then the 75% buff that you're gaining from your experiences, which is 25% higher than you were earning, still brings them a little bit more in line with everything else as to what they're trying to do. So I think that you'll probably see people return to doing more dungeon grind. Some people will still do incursions. They're still a great way to make gold. Like, you still, like, I think from level 46 until 50, when I was doing the Nightmare Incursions, I probably made 110 gold or close to that, maybe like 100, maybe 80 to 100 gold, somewhere in that range.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Just from doing those quests over and over and over again, which is great. And like, keep in mind, if you're doing actual quests out in the world, the experience buff that you're gaining from that Discoverer's Delight increases gold gains from quests by 300%. So you are still gaining a lot of gold through just normal questing that you're gaining, because they do want players to actually hit max level and feel like they can train their talents and get stuff. I couldn't. I hit max level and trained my talents that I was missing and did all that stuff, and I think I was down to 17 gold again. It's just like one of those, like, all right, there goes all of the gold that I basically made.
They gave you enough gold to continue playing the game.
Exactly, right? So I definitely still feel like I have to go out and do quests and do things. I think I'm up to like 50 gold now after selling some greens and some recipes and things that I found. But I did enchants for someone today, and they were buying the mats for their enchants, and I think they spent 25 gold on materials to enchant 4 pieces of gear. And you're like, okay, like it is expensive at the moment. The game is expensive as far as gold goes at the moment, so they really need these things in place. Like, I get tempted to level another character just to make gold, because my main character doesn't make gold as fast as leveling an alt would, which is weird, but that's the situation that we're in at the moment. So I do feel like they could do some tweaking to try and help the economy figure itself out, because it's a little screwy at the moment. Anyways, on the note that, while they're reducing the experience of Nightmare Incursions, the creatures within Nightmare Incursions themselves are still impacted by Discoverer's Delight. As a result, they are becoming more lucrative as well with the adjustments, so just keep that in mind too. So killing monsters becomes better because the experience from killing monsters is higher. So if you're someone who was just doing the incursions that involve like gathering leather or gathering ore or gathering, flowers, or picking up a scroll, because there's those sorts of quests, as that is a quest that is on the same level as kill 10 of these creatures. So because those two are kind of on the same par, keep in mind that the killing creatures one just got a little bit more favorable when it comes to gaining experience as well. 25% more experience from each of those mob kills. So that's nice as well. We wanted to let you know this as ahead of time, which was great. I'm very glad they chose to do that. And again, they wanted to thank everyone for participating in Season Discovery. So I think overall it's a great post that came in from the devs. I was really excited to see it from Agrind, because I basically immediately said, like, okay, like they already had the problem of the fastest way to level up is to grind dungeons. And now they have the problem of the fastest way to level up is to grind incursions. They need to make exploring the outdoor world in Season of Discovery actually interesting to do, and the best way to do it. Like, the best way to level should be to quest. Doing dungeons and doing, incursions should be close, because you have to travel around with quests. Those other things should be close because you don't have to travel around as much. But questing should be a very viable way to actually level up, and I don't feel like it is at the moment. So that's still something I struggle with Season of Discovery.
Yeah, I think for me, like, my preference is if the delta between the best and worst way to level is not really that extreme. Like, there shouldn't necessarily be a best way to do it, or like, the gaps between the good and bad ways should not be that significant, and I think it's kind of funny in a way that they're gonna crank up Discoverer's Delight, but then they're also gonna reduce some of the Nightmare Incursion XP, but then the creatures in there still benefit from Discoverer's Delight. So, like, it's still going to be a very good way to level, I think, for Toons working on it.
Still viable. Yeah,
I think it's fine. I feel like there's maybe a space here that if they ever do anything like this again, to explore where you sort of have a more focused leveling experience per level bracket or something, so that you just have this new thing, and then that is what you do to level, and then you can kind of dole out whatever new content or abilities or items or whatever that you're kind of building the content around through the new thing that everybody's just doing together, instead of the same 20-year-old quests and dungeons and stuff. So but that might be sort of a thing that has emerged as we've played this now for a few months. I mean, not that I've personally been playing it, but the initial level up experience from 1 to 25 was very similar to just vanilla WoW, except with the wrinkles of getting the runes that would actually make combat a lot more interactive. And now it's sort of, at least the first like week or first few days of phase 3, totally flipped around to where Nightmare Incursions were like the focus. But I think that could actually be okay. Like I think if you go in with that as like a design goal, or like something that's kind of really explicitly stated to the player that this is what you do in this content, like I think that could work. But Season of Discovery is not quite that, because it is still vanilla WoW, right? Like there's still so much of that content that the game is based around. But maybe for a future kind of more experimental version of WoW, something like that could be cool. So I think the important thing is, I mean, it's a theme of everything we're talking about tonight. It's just respecting the player's time.
Yeah.
And everything you do should be a stepping stone to that goal that you're trying to get to. And everything in a vacuum should be reasonably rewarding for your time investment.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I feel like right now they're doing a decent job with respecting players' time, except for just the catch up on runes and books and that kind of stuff. They need to up their game on putting something in to allow that to happen. I feel like Nightmare Incursions are a great way to help that along. It has a vendor, it's reputation based. You can have a currency attached to it that you spend to purchase. It's just gold at this point, to purchase things off of this vendor. Throw all of the level phase 1 runes. Throw all of the phase 1 runes onto that vendor. Every single one of them. Just throw all of them onto the vendor. Because why wouldn't you just let someone buy up the phase 1 runes? Like the phase 2 ones, if you want to keep them as a, hey, maybe in phase 4 we do this with phase 2, that's fine. There's a lot of phase 1 runes, and they're very important to a lot of classes. It would save players a ton of time. Just throw them all on there. Make them cost a gold a piece if you want. Like whatever it is, or 2 gold a piece. That's fine. As players earn the gold, they'll just buy the runes as opposed to going to get them. If they want to save 2 gold, they can go out and find the rune. If they want to experience it, they can go out and find the rune. But give a catch-up mechanic for that, because it just eats up so much players' time trying to get that, especially ones who are trying to catch up. So I think it just makes sense to use those vendors, those current vendors, to just take advantage of that. I don't see why you wouldn't. There's already a rune on them anyways. So it's already there. There's already the tech. Just do it. Just put the rest of them on there. All right. Hot fixes for Season of Discovery. Okay, now they did a lot of fixes to classes. The only one I'm going to highlight here right off the bat, actually there's 2 I'm going to highlight. First is Efflorescence will now work properly with pets. Basically, what it was before is how Efflorescence works inside Season of Discovery is you cast a hot onto a target. That hot has to be a rejuve or a regrowth. And then if you cast Swift Mend, it will consume that heal the player for the full amount of whatever was remaining on that heal. And if you have the Efflorescence rune in, it will then drop in that fluorescent circle that heals every member of that party. So on the live game, Efflorescence is a spell you cast on the ground that then people stand in, and it heals 3 people of anyone who's standing in there. It'll heal 3 people at a time with each tick that it can heal. In this case, it heals all the party members, but it only heals the party members, because everything in Classic is party-based, which means like if I cast a WoW growth, it'll only land on the people who I cast it on inside that party, as opposed to spreading out smart heal-wise across the raid. So there's different tech for each one. So that's how Efflo works inside of Season of Discovery. And so they fixed it so that if you use it on a pet, which is actually something that's kind of a smart thing to do, because the pet's always standing in melee, which means that you can then have the circle always happen in melee, no matter what person's running out to drop a debuff or what job someone has, or someone's, around behind the boss, but someone's beside the boss. You get the circle consistently on top of the same place, which helps people sort of hold a position. So that's a neat little trick that they've now fixed for Druid players that are out there. The other thing was for Hunter that I want to mention, where they fixed an issue where the Frenzied tooltip on the Master Hunter now correctly shows 6% instead of the incorrect 40%. This effect has no actual, relevance on the damage done by the pet. So yes, if you were someone who was like, man, they just heavily nerfed Hunter, geez, 36% nerf to pets, what is this? No, it just wasn't actually showing the correct number in the first place. It's always been doing 6%. Just keep that in mind. So that note is important to clarify. Nightmare Incursions, they did some changes to some of the mobs that are in there, including the credit for defeating the bosses in there is now awarded cross-faction. So there's no more fighting people for tags, which actually I think was kind of fun for the bosses, because it was faction-based. I didn't mind that as much, so they I know that was something that Towley was mentioning a fair amount, so at least they changed that up so folks can now get easier time killing those bosses. The bosses do respawn in like a 5-minute timer. It's like 3 to 5 minutes, so It's not too long to begin with, but that's what they ended up deciding to do. The Incursion Quartermaster can now repair gear. This is a really big deal. That's the other nice thing about Incursions, is you can sell stuff regularly, which is another good thing about Zul'Farrak. If you're someone who's looking to grind dungeons, is you can just head over to Gadgetzan and sell off a bunch of stuff that's inside your bags. So you still maintain a lot of gold that you're making while you actually at the same time are clearing content and getting experience. So similar thing with the Quartermaster. The quests in the Nightmare Incursions no longer require a cast time to open. That was a weird one when that was first happening, because you basically get like how this works like a plague is basically how the envelopes work. You complete one quest, you then get the ability to grab 2 quests off of this vendor. The quests, when you open them, have badges to deputize other members of your party, which basically means you can share that quest with them with these badges that you consume. There's 5 stacks, so there's 4 stacks in each badge, so you can share them with your other party members. So everyone sort of, there's a total of 20 quests. Everyone gets random quests. So what ends up happening is eventually you have, actually it's not 20, it's 18 quests. There's 18 quests. You eventually are in a position where you'll have 18 quests in your log, because you get 2, and let's say you share them with all your friends, and now everyone has 5 quests, right? You go out and you complete those 5 quests. Completing those quests gives you an envelope. Now you have 5 envelopes. Everyone opens 5 envelopes. Everyone shares the 5 envelopes. Oh, now you have 13 quests. Go out and do 13 quests. Come back, turn in the 13 quests. Now you have 13 envelopes. Open the 13 envelopes. Share the 13 quests. Now everyone has 18 quests, right? Like that's what ends up happening with this. So you end up in a situation where, yeah, if you haven't emptied your quest log before you start doing incursions, you're going to want to empty your quest log before you start doing incursions. There's 18 quests. So you'll be picking up a lot of them and working your way through it. So it's nice when there isn't a cast time, because it just speeds the process up. This should feel like really what we ended up doing, because we discovered that in order to get credit for the escort quests, you just have to be standing at the bottom of the ramp where the escort quest finishes when someone brings the escort quest there. You don't have to do the escort quest yourself. You can just, if you don't find the NPC, be at the bottom of the ramp. So our group would pick up all of our envelopes, go to the bottom of that ramp, open the envelopes. Whoever had the escort quest would share them immediately with the rest of the group. And then we'd sort of like share everything and plan everything out at the bottom of the ramp. And by the time we left to go and do the quests, all the escorts had been completed because other people had walked them in. So like you could sort of like min-max, but it felt really fun, kind of efficient to sort of do things. So I dug the incursions when we were doing them. Compared to like just running ZF over and over again, I really dug the incursions as to what we were doing once we got going on them. So they're great. I'm glad that they did some more improvements to them here with removing that cast time on things. They also made some of the mobs a little bit easier to kill and do a little bit less damage. And they reduced the plague shot damage from the satyrs, which was a very noticeable thing. And they increased the cast time on it, so people aren't just melting as much as they were before. So good to see that. All right, Sunken Temple. All right, this is the one we mentioned earlier. There have been significant adjustments made to the trash and boss health. Developers say, when developing and tuning Sunken Temple rating counters, we had concerns player power going into phase 3, so we had concerns about it. So we aimed high when tuning health, and we feel we aimed too high and have recently deployed a hotfix that lowers the health of all enemies and bosses within Sunken Temple to ensure this content remains accessible to players. We'll be watching progress closely and making additional adjustments as needed in the coming days. If this is what it feels like nerfed, what I was in there tonight doing, it needs more nerfs. It just does. Period. Like, it just does. We killed 2 bosses in 2 hours of spending time in there. That's not good. If you're considering, okay, this is 20 people. We had to pug 5 of those people. Next week, obviously, we might have to pug less. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see who actually sticks with it and gets to 50 and is able to do it. But when you're doing 20-man organized content, this content has to be enjoyable, go smoothly. And guess what? We're already 1 lockout down. There's now 7 left. That's where we're at. So, hey, let us clear this content a bunch of times. Please nerf the shit out of it so that we can actually get in there and clear this stuff regularly and have a good time doing it, and do it with 1 raid night a week, because that's really what people have time to do, right? People don't have time to be inside this raid 2 to 3 nights a week. They just don't. So let's make sure this can be cleared in like a 2.5 hour period every week.
Well, I think the big distinction here again is that this is a level up raid. This is not end-game content. This is here for a good time, not for a long time. This is not MC40. This is not a thing that's going to be out for months, right? Like, it's not going to be relevant for months. So if players aren't knocking it over on their way up through the leveling process, then yeah, they got to adjust it. I mean, obviously they know that, but it sounds like that probably won't be the last round. I mean, that was the thing that I think, to me, put phase 1 so over the top, was going into BFD, and it was just so fun. You know, it was just like such a simple raid, but it was cool, like very thematically well realized and fun to do.
You do it in 45 minutes. You cleared it in the very first week. Like it felt great. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think when you have the concept of the level up raid and the sort of like tiered leveling experience, I think that's really important. So hopefully we see some more changes come in. Now, granted, like player power and stuff and just familiarity with the fights is also going to, lower that difficulty curve a bit, but also it should just be more accessible. Especially, I mean, I feel like phase 2 wasn't even 2 whole months, was it? Like, I mean, they're just zipping through this stuff. So yeah, the raids have to be there to be farmed, not to present some kind of high difficulty barrier. We could do that in phase 4 or 5 or whatever they end up doing at max level, but not right now.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's going to bring us to the end of the show. So I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. Giving a special shout out today to Alianis, Arajian, James, Kapawi, Max, Pinky, Shorel, and Rager. Thank you so much for what you give, and to all of our patrons, thank you for what you give towards our show. Helps keep us on the air and keep us going. I am looking forward to making more content and keeping the show going for a lot longer, and you help make that happen. So thank you so much. Big shout out to our newest patrons, Alex S. and Bean. Thank you so much for hopping in and supporting the show. I love that we're still getting new patrons. Welcome aboard. Be sure you're finding your way over to the Discord, having some conversation there. And thank you so much for all that you will contribute. You can find our Patreon over at patreon.com/thestartingzone if you're looking to hop in and support the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, patrons, past and present, for supporting the show and helping make it happen. I mean, we're here. It's past 10:30 p.m. on a Monday night Eastern time as we're finishing up this episode, but we wanted to make sure we got it recorded and on the feed today. So, patrons are a big reason that it's possible for these episodes to happen and for the archive to stay online and all that stuff. Get the bills paid for the show. We really appreciate you. The help means a lot, and it keeps us going. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. If you folks have enjoyed this episode, you consider heading over to your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. Those reviews really help the show, and we love reading them here live. We haven't had one in a little bit, so if you write in a review, we'll be sure to get to it next week or the week after, whenever you happen to write it in and we get it. But yeah, they help boost us up those charts, so let's keep those 5 stars coming. We certainly enjoy them. Please and thank you. All right, that wraps up episode 626 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. You can also contact us and leave your feedback or ask a question via email at thestartingzone@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Twitter at thestartingzone, or you can join our Discord server, like I mentioned earlier, thestartingzone.com/discord, and you just click on the link there and that'll pop you into our Discord server. And if you want to get your hands on some TSC gear, you can find that over at TeePublic. That's teepublic.com/stores/thestartingzone, and you get all the shirts and mugs and sticker designs that are over there. And Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
Best place to find me is always over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald. You can also find me over on Blue Sky at JLucas if you are over on there. And you can find the video channels at twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald. They've been dormant for a little while now, but we'll be back pretty soon, I think. I think we're gonna have some. We know we got a date for season 4. Maybe I got to do raid achievements, so maybe I'll push that to stream. Why not? So we'll probably be doing that the next couple weeks. Tuesdays will be, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Sundays are usual streams for that once we're back on a regular schedule. So come say hi over there as well.
Nice. If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, over on Blue Sky at SpencerHD, twitch.tv/SpencerHD, youtube.com/@SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.